is how we like to communicate our thoughts and feeling, stories that can make you relate. And we talk to some cool people we met on the way. So thanks for tuning in. We hope that you like your stay.
Hey, I'm Hannah.
Hi, I'm Mel.
Hi, I'm Ian Tucker.
And this is another episode of GIRLSTUFF podcast. I don't know if you guys know who Ian is, but he's just in the newly released Netflix film A Week Away. But we are going to talk to Ian about everything from acting to music and maybe even play a little game with him. So Ian, before we start, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you do, what you like to do?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to this. A little bit about myself. I grew up here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, which is kind of like this smaller outside city outside of Nashville. Lived here. I'm 21 years old. Pretty much lived here my entire life. But getting ready to move over to Atlanta and make that transition. A little bit about myself. Professionally, I started acting when I was about 13. And have been doing it ever since, loving it ever since. And then got hooked up with A Week Away, and life has been crazy fun since that. Mm-hmm. And then also I've been studying music, I would say since I was little, maybe younger than my acting. So yeah, and then pretty much for fun, I pretty much do a lot of music production and just surround myself with music and of course acting and but also I'm a huge anime person, so when I'm not doing that, I'm usually watching like Demon Slayer or Naruto or something like that, because you gotta have your downtime moments, you know.
Yeah, of course. So what's one thing you did during quarantine that you otherwise would not have been able to do?
I really got to focus on, honestly, studying music pretty intensely. From that point, I decided I wanted to start taking music as seriously as my acting about 2 years ago, around when quarantine started. So I got to really invest time into writing and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we're super excited. We'll talk more about your music, but we heard your song. We were listening to it the other day and we're like, this is fantastic. We love it. So
thank you.
Big fans. We're big fans. So we're just going to segue into your acting career. And I just wanted to ask, like, what inspired you to begin acting?
Well, it was, I honestly was I kind of came in at like a weird angle. Like, I've heard stories of kids being like, I was watching TV and this actor came up and I knew from that instant, like, I wanted to be an actor. And my story was like way more corny and weird, because it was like I was around 12 or 13 and my mom had this friend who was putting on a play. And so at the time I was involved in like sports. So I was playing soccer and basketball, and so she was like, hey, I had 3 other brothers. And so she was like, I want you guys to just come to this play. It's for a friend. Right? Just come watch the screening of Peter Pan. And it was for Peter Pan. Just see what you think. I want to help our friend out. So I was like, okay, whatever. Cool. I go there and I'm like watching Peter Pan. And then the crocodile comes on. And there's this guy in a crocodile suit. And I didn't care about any of the other things except for that, for some strange reason. And I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I want to be in this. And I had one of my friend's mom, she goes, what did you think of it, you know? And I was like, that crocodile suit I think is like my direction for this. And she was like, interesting. She's like, why don't you because she knew I sang at the time, so I was doing a lot of singing, and she was like, why don't you, I don't know, just try out for Peter Pan and see what happens. And I was like, that's an interesting idea. And so I decided, I'll go for it. And I ended up booking Peter Pan at this like small, I was homeschooled too. So this small homeschool theater. And that's kind of how I got into it. The rest was like, oh yeah, I really, really dig this. So it was one of those, more like a snowball effect than like a instantaneous like lightning bolt from Zeus hitting me on the head. Like it was more of a snowball, like, yes, this is what I really enjoy.
So did you ever end up in that crocodile suit or?
No, but my brother did. And that's the incredibly ironic part, is he was, he got to wear the suit.
Well, maybe one day you'll get to be in a crocodile suit.
Oh no, for real. That's on my bucket list. I have it's on the top of it, in fact.
Okay, so
So.
we'll connect with Alan. We'll be like, give Ian
Yes.
a scene in A Week Away 2 where he's in a crocodile suit.
Yes, that's already on the list of demands I have.
Perfect. So what's your favorite thing about acting?
That's a good question, because there's different, I guess, aspects. So I'm going to talk about more of an artistic craft aspect, I guess. My favorite thing about acting is the ability to tell somebody else's story, definitely, and kind of free yourself from your own perception of the world for however long you're going to be doing the job. So I think that's one of my favorite parts, because I'm just personally so interested in how people think about things and why they think about things and how. So for me, acting is gifting me with the ability to see from another person's point of view and to understand how that person sees the world in their corner. And for me, that's, I think, incredibly important, because that's just how I like to perceive the world.
Yeah, and it's always interesting because everyone has a different point of view and different lens on what's happening in front of them. So
absolutely. And I think it's important. Definitely. It's like, if I don't know, this may be a terrible analogy, but I'm going to make it anyway. It's like, if you're going to go buy a camera, you want to try out different lenses and see which ones, like, each lens does a different thing. So for all the photographers who are going to watch this, I apologize that I don't know my stuff as well as I should. But, you get a zoom lens, you got a very long zoom lens, and they do different things, So I think it's important the same way art. It's trying out different lenses.
Yeah, well, you're talking to two photographers here, so you spoke to the audience. You lucked out. You got the two photographers of the group on the call.
I love it. Right when I'm making a terrible and that I probably shouldn't make because I know nothing about photography, and you guys are here to hold me accountable. Love it.
No, but you're right. Like, every lens sees something in a different way, and it takes in different things depending on its length and what it can do. So no, you're right. Like, that totally made sense. Don't worry. Good analogy.
Good. Or sunglasses, because I recently bought sunglasses and I tried on a bunch of different lenses. It's like, which one, it's the same thing. I think art is a lot of time trying out different lenses.
Yeah, that's true. So you've kind of mentioned, like, you like to get into a different character and, like, different personality when it comes to your roles. Sure. So what kind of is your secret as to how you get into the role of your characters?
Find a commonality between me and whoever I'm playing. So one thing I'm very, I would say, you've got to make something real to you. Yeah. Because if it's not real to you, then it's impossible. You've got to make something real to you. And you've got to find a commonality, even if you're playing the most horrendous person on the planet, even if you think, here's the interesting, if you think that you two are the, because I would say most people think they're good people. And then, once you play like a bad guy, right? You kind of are like, well, I would never do these things and stuff like that. But here's the interesting thing. You've got to find that human element that would make you do that. So whether it's for any role, you've got to find that human element, because at the end of the day, we're all human. So, and we're prone to the same things, and people grew up with different circumstances. People had different lenses. So you've got to find that thing that connects you to even the most horrendous of people. Yeah. So that's kind of what I do, is always bring a part of myself to anything I play.
That's amazing. I think that also makes the character more real, because then it's not just like I'm just reading a script. I'm invested in who this person actually is.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what makes people, in my opinion, feel connected, is if you're not playing that human element, then humans watching, it'll be foreign to them, right? You've got to bring a part of, because that's all you have really is this instrument, you know?
Yeah.
You've got to use it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the character Sean, I know a bunch of characters like that in my own life. So you know, so I was able to say, I know this kid. Like I can picture this kid in my own life type of thing. So.
Yeah, he was fun. It was I going into that audition, I definitely pulled some from my own life of like times I have been overly self-confident, overly self-righteous. You can probably, I always joke around, I'm like, you ask my parents, like raising me, like they definitely saw that side of me, like come out. And so like on screen, they were like, so I took them to the little showing we had. It was, you know, no surprise seeing me in that light because, you know, I had to bring myself into that. So there were definitely moments they were like, oh, we've seen that expression. I was like,
that's good. There you go. You see, you're playing your character correctly.
Yes. That's actually so Alan, who was our producer and the writer for this, Alan Powell, he was like, we want to make a villain that you can't decide if you hate him or you like him. Like there's elements of both. And so it just tiptoeing that line, that's actually really good you said that, because that means I did my job effectively for Alan. So
you did. Yeah. I mean, like to me, I was like, I know this kid, like I've been around this kid, so I know he's a good guy, but yeah, I also want to like get your head on.
It's that weird thing where the phrase pretty much we used was pretty much like, it's a self-righteous kind of attitude. It's like his morality, you know, he probably places very high, which in places is a good thing. But I think where his, you know, character flaw is that he places his identity inside his superior, or his view of a superior morality. So I think that's, with Sean at least, that's his character flaw.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've kind of mentioned this before, but Ian was Sean. I don't think we ever got a last name from Sean in the movie, but he is a character in Netflix's new release, A Week Away. And Sean is a camper at camp A Week Away, and he's your classic camp bad boy is what I like to call him. And he leads one of the teams and also has a crush on one of the characters. So we're going to talk a little bit about your role and the movie itself and kind of how it's impacted various different aspects of your life. So you've kind of mentioned the audition process, but how did you get the role? Like what was the actual kind of, take us through like when you got the script or when you got the audition call?
So it was interesting. I was working for Regina Moore at the time, who's a casting director down here. And brilliant lady, by the way, fantastic at her job, amazing individual. And so I was working for her at the time, and she was pretty much like, hey, I've got this musical coming across my desk we're going to need to get prepped for. So like I remember I was in far back as the process of like putting together lists of like dancers and all this stuff of like calling dance agencies. So I was like involved like before. It was really interesting because I got to kind of see the whole thing evolve before I got casted. So I was working for her at the time, and she was like, I think you need to audition for this. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so I sent in, I went to the live auditions in Nashville, and I was working for her at the time I was doing that too. So I had to work both left and right side of my brain that day. And it was so stressful and exhausting, but exciting at the same time. So I'm like literally like there in the morning, like making sure the printer's working to print out forms and all this stuff. And then meanwhile going, okay, I have to do my audition later today. So I need to make sure I'm prepped for that. But so it was a really big day. And so went to the live auditions, and I think I was one of the auditions in the morning. Anyway, that doesn't necessarily matter. But I remember looking over the scripts, and I saw Sean, and I was like, I know exactly how to play this guy, like for sure. But I got called in for George, ironically.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got called in for George, and so I was going to audition for George, which I was like, okay, cool, that's all good. Like, I would love to play Sean. I know it because I just connected with him, and but I'm gonna make George my own as well.
Mhm.
And so went in to play George, and you know, did the audition, and okay, so I'm gonna say, I don't know if I should say this. I rapped for my audition.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I I did. We had to do a singing audition, and I was like, I was like, I think I should, you know, throw in that maybe I can rap. So I wrote this rap, and I auditioned with Justin Timberlake's Senorita from the Justified album, and I wrote this little rap afterward. And that's just a quick short story that I probably shouldn't have told to save myself embarrassment. But yes, I rapped in my audition. And that's a thing. So yeah, so I went in for George, did that, and then they were pretty much like, yeah, good work, but we want to see you for Sean. And I was like,
Yeah.
on the inside, I was like, this is what I want to do. But so I got outside, I took a moment, kind of read up the script outside,
Mhm.
and it just kind of clicked with me, because I was like, I've been this guy before.
Yeah.
Like the over cocky, overconfident, like I know how to play this. And I took my own approach to it, because I wanted to play him as close to myself, which was pretty much like, not, I want to take it not as like an all-star jock, but as like his overconfident is very smirky and very quick-witted and stuff like that. So I want to take it in that direction. So I went in the room, read for Sean, and I guess the rest is history.
The rest is, yeah. So what was your favorite memory from set? Anything that happened?
Oh man. There's lots of things that happened. My favorite memory was, can I use the term maybe okay. My favorite memories were definitely dance like rehearsals, because the thing about dance is you're all like moving your body, and you know, dance kind of is a weird kind of art in a way, because with acting, you're acting, and you can, you know, there's like, you have it almost like a cheat code for being like, you can fake it almost. Dance, you can't really fake anything, because if you're like, you've got to move your body. So there's just this openness when you're around other people who are dancing, that you are just more open, in my opinion, with each other, especially in the environment we were dancing in with Melina, who was our choreographer, who was amazing, by the way. And the skeleton crew, all of them, like amazing. And so we were able to be open and free with each other. And it was just a great time. Like those dance rehearsals early on were just so fun, because we were just open, able to openly express and be goofy and mess up steps, and like do little side choreographs that we're just having fun with. And so for me, the dance rehearsals were my favorite, because it was just relaxed, and you could be goofy but also get our job done.
Yeah. And
so it was a good balance of work and play. As for things that actually happened on set, I gotta say, we had this bit. It was me, Bailey, and Kat kind of had this early morning bit, because some days we'd get there early, and we would just roast each other, and it was the best thing ever. And so we'd be in the you know, getting hair and makeup done, and just sitting there roasting each other. And to me, that's I guess that's my like love language towards people who I, you know, are friends with. Is I grew up with 3 brothers, so like the whole roasting aspect
Yeah.
and, you know, fun of each other is just how I, you know, if I like you, I'm gonna, you know, we're gonna have a good time. I'm gonna tease you. So for me, like having that banter was probably also one of my favorite things.
That's awesome. I think also like it encompasses just friendships, right? Like when you get close to someone, roasting them is like secondhand nature at
It's
that
part of
point.
the thing, you know.
Yeah,
It's part of
exactly. So you guys filmed the movie back in 2019 and it just recently got released. So what was it like
right.
kind of waiting for the release? You know, were you nervous about it? What were your thoughts kind of in the waiting process?
I'll be honest, I didn't expect the movie to do this. Like I had kind of a general idea of maybe perhaps what it would, you know, look like.
Mhm.
But I didn't expect just like I'm on a podcast with you right now. Like I didn't expect the reaction to be quite like this. So I described it, I was on a Instagram live with Alan and I kind of described it like you're a kid inside a car and you're headed towards a birthday party, right? And the closer it gets, the more the anticipation is like building.
Mhm.
And so for these past maybe year and a half, it's felt like a kid in a car heading to a birthday party. And we're fine. And right before the movie was released, it was like you're getting out of the car, you're like bum rushing the door. And so now we're through the door pretty much, and we're at the party, and we're having a good time. But for those years, yes, it felt like that.
Yeah.
Just anticipation and a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, waiting for anything is just like what's happening is actually like, you know.
Absolutely. But it's also one of the coolest feelings because it's like a mystery, right? Because a lot's happened in my world since I, you know, filmed the movie. So I've had a lot going on just personally with growing up, going from because I started shooting the film when I was 19.
Mm.
I turned 20 while I was on set, and then now I'm 21. So like 19 to 21, there's some things that happen in life that just are like you just learn a lot
Yeah.
about life and growing up and stuff like that. So just kind of having that anticipation on top of that. Like, I don't know what this film is going to do. I don't know where I'm going to be. Like, it was mildly stressful, but at the same time, like very exciting as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, we love the movie if you haven't realized that by now. So,
I'm very,
so what was kind of like your favorite song that you either got to sing or hear from the soundtrack of the movie?
Baby, Baby. Baby Baby is my favorite song on the soundtrack because Jabril Cook is such a soulful man.
Yeah.
And he brought like this cool Prince vibe to it.
Mhm.
Like I remember kind of watching him develop George in the studio, and it was really cool to watch because he didn't necessarily, I mean, George is kind of quirky in the film, we can all agree, but also kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like Jabril brought this like underlying cool guy energy to it of especially in that baby baby scene and especially what he does vocally.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. And yeah, so Baby Baby is my favorite song on the soundtrack because it's funky, dude. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And it's so Prince and it's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say like when I was watching the movie for the first time, I actually went back because I was like, wait, the movie, what happened? It went from like very like campy feel to like funk. I was like, well, what's going on? I had to go back.
Yeah, it's like this, it's which I like. I honestly like when movies do that. One of, you know, La La Land did that with the whole when they're in the I think it's called a planetarium, I believe.
Yes.
It's where they're, I believe so. And, you know, gravity is suspended. Reality is kind of shifted in this conceptual idea of floating through time and space with a lover. And so literally portrayed on screen. And that's one of my favorite parts about the movie, is that it just breaks like that.
Yeah.
I personally love it when films kind of have this break that doesn't make sense because it's conceptual. And so for me, that is one of my favorite moments of the film, is when it's completely suspended from outside of the text, and you kind of are taken in a completely different direction artistically. Like that's one of my favorite things that I think was accomplished with Roman, our director, being brilliant with kind of engineering that inside the script. So
yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, the whole soundtrack is just that each song has its own part, but I definitely agree. Baby Baby is definitely one of the top songs on my list. So
yeah, no,
yeah, I'm with you on that. So we've kind of mentioned this before, like the fans have really taken this movie, and it's only been out for a couple of days, but you know, everyone's talking about it on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. Mel and I have made a couple of TikToks ourselves about about the movie, about characters and stuff like that. And I somehow learned the dance to The Great Adventure, because why not?
Why not, dude? Why not?
Why not? It was a lot of skipping back and going in slow motion on Netflix.
Yes.
You know, to get this.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So kind of like, what do you hope people will learn or take away if they watch, or when they watch A Week Away?
I recently heard a really cool story. Kind of touched my heart a little bit. My aunt has a associate, and he watched the film because she was like, hey, my nephew's in this film. And word kind of got back, and I heard a story that he was going through a very rough year, and he watched this movie, and it reminded him of an inner truth that he'd forgotten. And it kind of stirred something up inside of him again, in a good way. And so hearing that, I think, is what the movie was supposed to do. So, and then I hope people, I mean, that's what I hope for, right? Like, that's what you hope in a film. And I think that's amazing. I think that's what I've had experience with movies. So I'm glad we made a movie that did that with somebody.
Yep.
And, you know, I hope the message that people take from this is, you know, there's a line that Will says, and it's like, always have an escape plan. And I think that line translates a lot to people's lives, of like not fully committing to something, and always having an escape plan, and always or having an excuse to run away, or in that line, I think, and forgive me, because I'm kind of, when I like explain things to people, I'm like literally laying the words out in front of my eyes and like breaking it down as I'm explaining it.
You're fine.
I think that line is an important one, and I hope people understand that you don't need an escape plan. You really don't. That you can, you know, it's okay to be honest and raw. And I think Will is a great translation of people who are, you know, needing that message. And so I hope people take that. You don't need an escape plan, you know.
Yeah. It's the whole movie has just, it's got different aspects to it that resonates with different people based on their experiences. And I think, you know, there's the people that, you know, they've grown up in the church and they've gone to summer camp but never felt like they belonged, or the people who might always need an escape plan because they never feel comfortable. So I think the movie does have various topics that it talks about that can resonate with literally anyone, no matter the age that they're in.
And I think it's cool also, from because there's also like this camp hierarchy that's established early on,
Mhm.
but you start to see it kind of get leveled, right? So you've got Sean, who's kind of at the top of his food chain, so to speak. You've got George, who's at the bottom, right?
Mhm.
And it's clearly seen in the first shot of like on the camp and the power dynamics. And I'm 6'2", so like the literal translation is like I'm standing very much above both Kevin and Jabril, or Will and George. And so, but at the end of the film, there's this really cool leveling the playing field moment where I come down off my high horse, right? And I congratulate George, and I shake hands with Will, and
Mhm.
bring my ego down to this level playing field. So you literally get to see like this camp hierarchy of like, oh, Sean is the top of the food chain, and then George is the bottom. But there's this cool moment where kind of predator and prey kind of like
Mhm.
come to an playing field. And
Yeah.
so I think that's really cool also to see.
Yeah. We don't know a lot about Sean's background. Like, I mean, realistically, we don't know a lot about anyone's background. It's very vaguely touched upon throughout the movie.
Yeah,
But was there something specific that you kind of like created for Sean to help you kind of,
yeah, I
yeah.
have a small, I wish I had it on hand, because I do keep getting like asked this question. And I'm the type of person who likes to, I've been writing since I was little.
Yeah.
So that's how I get things out of my brain. So I try to do that with characters as well, because I think it helps do like a deeper dive on them.
Yeah.
And so I did do some, like a little bit of journaling with Sean and just kind of figuring out why he is the way he is. Um, he's actually, the thing I learned, he's actually incredibly insecure, although it may not look like it, which I mean, kind of is a thing I've noticed with arrogance, is it comes from usually a place of lack, like you lack security. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to overstimulate your own ego. And so, or overinflate it. So yeah, I definitely did some character journaling, and understanding his relationship with Avery and his relationship with Will, and why he looks at, kind of Will the way he does.
Mhm.
Because I think part of Sean also kind of wants to be Will.
Yeah.
I think there's this bad boy aspect that Will has that Sean wishes he has, right?
Mhm.
And so I think Sean actually sees what a bad boy looks like, and he's like, dang it. Like,
I can't keep the
dang,
facade anymore.
yeah, this kid's actually cool and not just trying to be cool.
Yeah.
So he gets his, ego shattered in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely did some deeper diving into who this
Yeah.
character was.
That's awesome. Well, I hope this movie gets a second movie, gets a sequel, and we get to see a little bit more of Sean.
Yeah, and like the thing with Sean is like, I guess he's a nice guy now. You
Well,
know,
I
I
mean,
but here's the thing. I think as in life, like you know, old habits sometimes happen, and you may see Sean's ego flare up in a second. I don't know yet, but
well,
we shall see.
if Camp Rock has taught us anything, even if the bad guy becomes a good guy at the end, they become the bad guy again in the second movie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also like camp. Like, I mean, I remember going to camp and you're friends with everyone by the end of the week. And then a week later, you're like, well, I'm back to being friends with just my people. Right.
Yeah,
So,
isn't that weird? It's pretty weird, that whole, and by the way, it's sometimes a lot of like, it's very similar on set.
mhm,
It's because you go work a job, and
yeah.
especially with acting, because it's so personal, right? So everyone's wearing their emotions on their sleeve, and
Yeah.
everyone's, wanting to connect with each other on an emotional level, because that's the job.
Mhm.
Um, and you're like, oh my God, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna text. And luckily, like this group, we stayed pretty connected.
Mhm.
But most of the times, no, it's you go there and you're like, oh my God, let's, dab each other up, get each other's numbers. You're like, we're gonna text, we're gonna talk, and never do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that can't parallel familiar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's with everything: work, life, friends, travel, like whatever you
Yeah,
do, it happens everywhere, you know. So seeing that also
sure.
definitely helps because you see that, like, hey, Avery, we've been to camp before together type of connection between Sean and Avery. But
Yeah,
then you,
definitely.
yeah, right. So, okay, so we're going to play a game with you now.
Okay.
And the game
Awesome.
is Who Said It? So we are going to tell you the line. I will take turns. So Mel and I will kind of go back and forth with this one. And your role and the game that you have to play is you have to tell us who said it. And you get
Okay.
bonus points if you can remember where it was said.
Awesome. All right, cool.
Okay, so I'll start us off with a very easy one, I believe. And it says, not the 666.
Oh, Sherry Shepherd. So yeah, which is the not the camp director, but I'm gonna. Is it cool if I call them by their name? Like,
You're good to call them by their name, yes.
okay, Sherry Shepherd paintball scene.
Perfect.
Awesome.
The next one is let's Mr. and Mrs. Smith this thing.
That is coming from Will Hawkins. No, because Will says, no, what is that? That's coming from Avery. That's Bailey's character. And that's when they're in the hut with the paintball. And yeah.
Don't put my camp on Craigslist.
Oh, that's Keckner. Yeah, that's our camp director. And that's when he calls Will outside and he's like, I wanted to say, glad you're here. So it's that scene when they're outside. Yeah.
The next line is, I just choose to believe. I mean, that's faith, right?
That's definitely Avery when they're in the flower garden.
Look at you. You know your scenes.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I probably will. If I don't, I would feel really embarrassed if Roman or any of the writers was watching. So.
All right. The next one is, I don't need you to fix me.
That's Will outside the truck. It's that night scene. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Next one is 7.5 narrow.
Oh, that's George when he's talking about Presley's shoe size inside the cabin. Yeah. Why do I remember so much of this? Like, I don't understand.
It's okay. You know what? You're good. It shows that you loved the movie, filming the movie, that you're so invested in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next one is, for a second there, I thought you might have an overinflated sense of self.
Oh, that's definitely George, just because of the verbiage. And that's when I'm approaching him with the whole like running man group squad outside the yurts. When he's with Will and it's after the scene where they're signing up for things. Am I correct?
Okay. Well, it's the right scene, not the right person. It was Will.
Oh, it's Will.
Dang
it. Dang it.
The next line is majestic unicorns of the sea.
Oh, that's so Sean. And that is, is that the opening is that the opening number?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool. I was like, it's either that or when I'm doing my little hoorah thing.
You like the hoorah, I could tell. You're just like, I got
the
this.
hoorah thing.
All right, the next one is, I love the summer.
I love the summer. Presley.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Is it is it when they're talking about what is it when they're signing up for they're at the paintball thing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Wow. Okay, great.
The next line is, maybe you should invest in some stamps.
Will, when him and George are talking about sending Presley the he wrote her but never sent.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I want to see myself like you do.
I want to see myself like you do. Is that Avery? Oh,
This one's a trick
I
one.
know.
This one's a trick one.
I want to see myself like you do. Trick one.
As a hint, it's in a song.
Oh, then it's Will, right? No. I want to see myself like you. Isn't good enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
George.
No.
No. Oh. Strike two. Is it
That's
Will?
okay. It's Presley.
It's Presley.
Dang it.
Okay, you got the song. We'll give you that.
There we go.
The next line is, I'm Ducky. What can I say?
What is it? I'm
Ducky. What can I say?
That's definitely George. That's such
Yeah.
a George thing to say.
Mhm.
It really. Where did Jabril say that? Huh? Is it dodgeball?
No.
No. I don't know where it was, but I
That's
know
okay.
it's George.
That's okay. What about you have to John Hughes me?
That's definitely George.
Yeah.
And it's where they're in the bathroom, and he's like,
Yep.
I can't like Presley like this. Yeah.
The next one is, I'm up here writing moody sunrise songs. What's your excuse?
Oh, that's Will with his guitar on the shore, strumming.
It's the
Yeah.
scene that I call the Camp Rock scene because I was like, if Avery comes back
Yeah.
from behind him, that's Camp Rock.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
definitely paired with that. Yeah,
All right, what about I'm kind of a big deal at camp?
that's Will, and he says that to Avery with the whole blob situation.
Yep.
Well, he's coming. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is also tricky because it's not, I'm giving you the hint that it's not one of the main characters.
Okay.
Slay 'em all.
Slay them all. It's definitely paintball.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely paintball. But who says slay them all? Is it I was gonna say Charlie, but Charlie doesn't speak.
No,
It is
that's his
Charlie.
own line. It is Charlie.
It is
his own
Charlie?
line. Yeah,
No way.
that's his only line.
Oh, cool. I love Charlie, by the way. That is my favorite character.
Yeah.
What a little savage he is playing paintball, you know?
Clearly, no shots at the head. That's all we need from him.
Yeah. I'm so glad he's on the Apostles side, though. That's
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
All right, the next one is I want the new kid taken out first.
Definitely me in the little huddle.
Yep.
That was okay. So that I gotta say that scene was so fun to shoot because we're just like all huddled around, and pretty much they were just like, give your squad a pep talk, Ian. I was like, all right. So like, I'm pretty sure there's just footage of me yelling at these poor actors and just being obnoxious as possible in this little huddle. So
I love that.
that's probably
I love that.
The next one is a short line. It's
Okay.
just word destroy.
What is it?
Destroy.
Presley
Yes.
in the huddle.
Look at you. All right, what about I am excited?
I am excited. That's me. That's what I'm. That's what I'm coming down and about to do the whole telling Will that what I know.
Yeah.
That's funny because that line I remember doing it like a billion different ways because it's just it's like one of those lines. It's like I am excited. It's like such a simple sentence that I'm like, I'm just gonna go have fun with this one.
Yeah.
So I recognize that one right off the bat.
And the last one is, you can change who you are. I get it.
Me being a jerk, being a major stalker, mean guy.
Wow.
And that, I believe that's when I'm talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're going to segue into talking a little bit about your music and more just about who you are as a person. So Mel, take it away.
Sure.
I'll
Sure.
take it over. So you clearly have a passion for music, but
Yes.
where did this passion like come from? What first got you started with music?
I started singing when I was, I started playing piano when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I guess I always had an affinity for music, but I started playing piano, and then singing came next at around 10 or 11, and that's kind of where it started.
Mm.
And then I got involved with acting. I mainly did musicals, so kind of had the best of both worlds going on there for a while. Yeah. Then down the road got more, kind of pushed, I wouldn't say pushed music aside, but kind of put it on the back burner, to kind of focus on acting as a kid. And then it was about it was right when I graduated high school. I don't know what clicked, but I think I had an opportunity for, I started just, I can't say when was the exact moment it clicked, but something clicked and I was like, I really want to start taking this more seriously. So started learning music production, started listening to all sorts of odd records and music that was foreign to me, because I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop. I grew up listening to a lot of R&B, but I wanted to challenge myself with more lenses, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just started listening a lot more. Actually working on this film, also learned a lot from our producers. I learned a lot from the just being around people who I'd be like, okay, what are you listening to? Or they talk about what they're listening to. And Jabril actually got me more into Prince. And so my love of Prince now I can kind of attribute to Jabril because he's such a lover of Prince.
Mm-hmm.
So he helped me tap into that and understand why. And I started taking those records more seriously. But yeah, my love for music and really the drive started about 3 years ago.
Mm.
Okay.
So.
Since you mentioned you did musicals, would you consider, this is just me asking because I'm curious,
Sure.
would you consider yourself a theater kid?
That's so funny you asked this because I was literally talking about this 2 days ago with somebody. I kid you not, because I was, yes, I was a theater kid, but I didn't really feel like I fit. This sounds so weird, but I didn't feel like I fit in with the theater kids too, because while they were all listening to musicals, I was like, yeah, but this Nas record though. And I was like, have you heard Illmatic? And like, I was so obsessed with hip hop, and I never really, like when everyone was listening to theater soundtracks, I was not. And so I kind of felt out of place because of that. And I was watching movies. So I was like, once I figured out film, it's like I like this better. So I was doing theater because I enjoyed it, to keep my acting in shape and because I was having a good time. But the whole, like, I never identified with like, I'm a theater kid. Cause like I was never singing musicals outside of,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was literally like talking to this, I don't remember who, like 2 days ago. They asked me the same thing. And I think it was like a family member. And I was like, I always felt like a mosh podge of different kind of things. This is such a long answer. I apologize. It was a quick yes or no. But it was funny that it just kind of happened a couple days ago. I've always felt like a mosh podge of different things. So to answer your question in a simplified, a diluted way, kind of.
It's like good to have like their feet in different things, so, and not to be focused on one subject. So
Yeah. And like I said, I apologize. My brain is like, it's like so like when I talk about one thing, it's like it connects over here to over here to over here. So I apologize.
I totally get what you mean. Once you start talking,
Yeah, it's like I'm in a cave and I'm like, oh, there's a tunnel. Oh, this tunnel leads to this tunnel. And then I'm like, oh, but I probably need to like go back to where I started so I can answer this question.
Okay, you mentioned previously that you play the piano. Do
Yes.
you play any other instruments, or would you like to learn any other instruments?
Oh, right now, yes. The instruments I want to learn, there's like a million, because as much as you can play, I think the better. And the much texture you get in music, I think the better. So having the ability to do that, I think, is very important. When I say I play piano, I know I had to stop early on as a kid because of just life happening. So I didn't pick it up for another 8 years. And so I recently started picking it up again. I know enough to write, right? I wouldn't sit down and play a ballad or a concerto piece or anything like that. Like I'm not that good at piano, but right now I'm spending trying to spend at least 2 to 3 hours on guitar every day, and really trying to master that. So yeah, and then I want to learn bass after this, and drums after that. So
You'll just be your own band. You'll be your own band. Who needs
yeah. I mean, I think, in my opinion, I'm very much as much as you can do yourself. Yeah. I think as an artist, the better, because then you don't need to be like, I don't need to call up people and be like, hey, can you come play this bass line? Yeah. I can just do it. So, or even I feel the same way about acting and film, by the way. The more you know how to write, the more you know how to direct, the more you know how to do things on your own. Mm-hmm. That's freedom. And I think in arts, you've got to have freedom.
Yeah, totally. You did an interview with Just Jared Jr. and
I did.
You said that Pharrell Williams is a big inspiration for you.
Yes.
What is that?
Wow. Pharrell. So I grew up listening to Justin Timberlake a lot, and I was like, why does the music sound this way? And I figured out that Pharrell Williams was the producer on it, and the Neptunes, Chad Hugo. And I was just listening to Pharrell talk about music and his ability as well to just a lack of, he has a lack of, I'm looking for the word, constraints. He's very free. And I hear him talk about that a lot. There's a great interview with him and Maggie Rogers at NYU, I believe. Maggie Rogers played him a song, and just hearing him talk about how the music made him feel, and just kind of how Pharrell adds this bounce in his music and the textures and the colors he chooses to put in it, I've always just dug. And then he goes from, working with NERD, which is his band, and then he goes and works and produces on like the Kendrick Lamar album, which is I had a favorite song from that, and I realized that it was produced by Pharrell. And so I just noticed that all the things that I really, really dug about music came from Pharrell Williams. And just also his affinity for jazz and incorporating kind of jazz elements inside of hip hop. And like songs that I believe it was produced by the Neptunes. It was the It's Getting Hot in Here. So that is produced by Pharrell and the Neptunes. So there's a ton of things that I grew up listening to that I was like, I love this. And then I checked the producer and it was Pharrell Williams. And then also he's a designer. He's a fashion designer as well. Like, and he designs chairs, and he designs so much outside of music that it's unbelievable. And I would say the same thing about Kanye West, by the way. I think people who are that do more than one thing, almost like a renaissance period, right? So I think right now we're kind of in, and we have the ability to kind of rebirth a renaissance. And who's to say we're not already in it, you know? But Pharrell Williams, I think, is one of those renaissance men who I greatly respect.
Speaking of artists you look up to, what is one artist you could listen to on repeat and never get tired of?
Frank Ocean.
Okay.
Frank Ocean. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, there were Nostalgia Ultra back in my sophomore year of high school. I found that little mixtape he did, and I just the poetic words behind it and the sonics he chooses to use. There's not a day that goes by where I at least don't play one Frank Ocean song, because I think every time his lyrics just kind of hit me different, because they're so they're so poetic that I'm constantly unfolding a new meaning behind what he's meaning, or if I don't get it, or I hit a certain period in my life where I go through something and I'm like, oh, that's what he means by that. So Frank Ocean, easy.
Okay, going of songs that you like to listen to your music. You released your debut single earlier this year called Hug All Night. Tell us a little bit about the song.
Yeah, so that song I produced with Slater and my brother Spencer Campbell. And I wrote the song. I had Slater sent me the beat he made for it. And I wanted to write a pop song over it. It was like, kind of has this nice little bounce to it. So he sent me like this rough beat for it. I sat down. It took me, there's like a whole page I have in my journal of like crossing out ideas, but I wanted to kind of highlight, because the beat was kind of very subtle and kind of had this very emotional feel to it. I wanted to quickly write a pop song that kind of stuck with the same subtle cues that the music did. So I think lyrically I tried to emulate what the track was doing. So I wrote it in Florida at my mom's house because I was going to visit her, and recorded the song. And that song, it's funny because we recorded it, and I recorded it right here in my bedroom. And I was like, we recorded it, and I decided I wanted to add a bunch of different production elements. So I kind of stole from like this 80s, 90s kind of Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam kind of production aspect with, very reverbed and very, I added like the Roland 808 little cowbells in there. And all the time I was listening to a lot of Pharrell. So I tried to add like this nice like groove in the track with just different percussion elements and just different textures and moments to give it this nice bounce. So yeah, I'm glad people like the song, but I wanted to go for like a retro feel for the music in that song.
Yeah, Hannah and I listened to it the other day, as we said, and we really liked it and we vibed with it.
Good. Yeah, glad. As the kids say nowadays, I hope it's a vibe. I hope it's a bop.
It's a bob. But producing it and finalizing it was what was the moment you realized that you were actually like you actually produced a song you're happy with releasing?
Produced a song I'm happy with is a is a paradox in itself, because all my work I have many notes on, even notes that, I mean, everything I do is never finished. It's merely abandoned. So I knew Talk All Night was done, kind of, and I finished it and I played it, and they're like, that's done. It's done. I'm like, yes, but we could add this, and I still have a bunch of notes I have for it. But that's actually a great quote I heard, and I don't remember who said it. It's that art is never finished, it's merely abandoned. And I think that is so true, because you could always make things better. You could always make things better, faster, stronger. Like it's just, it's life. So when I knew it was finished was when my co-producer was like, get the stems to me tomorrow night. I went, okay. So if it wasn't for him, it probably would still be on my computer and 8 different versions of it floating around. There is a version out there with a guitar solo on it, by the way.
It's okay.
Just, yeah, interesting.
But I totally get with what you mean with not ever being completely happy with what you produce.
Yes.
Because I am an artist, and I, for example, do like our graphic design, and I think I rebranded our whole podcast like 3 times at least. And Hannah's always like, stop it.
Yes.
Stop.
So we definitely relate with the whole like nothing's perfect and it's gonna drive me up the wall.
Yeah.
Like
Hannah.
I apologize on both of our behalfs, by the way, because I feel bad for, I literally, like, when I'm working with producers or co-producers, I feel bad because I'm constantly like so detail oriented. It's kind of not good. So no, I apologize on our behalf.
No. I think, like, it's more of like, to me, I've kind of taken it as there's so much creative expression when it comes to any form of art, whether it's music or photography or drawing or graphic design. Like every art form there is, it's never going to be perfect because it's based on whoever's producing it or doing the work itself. Like I might like a song, I might like, this is great, but then someone else could be like, it's missing this kind of feel to it,
Yep.
Everyone, you mentioned it, everyone sees things through a different lens, and that's the fun part about art, is you're never constrained. This is the only road you're going to go to. It is not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 might equal 2, or might equal a window, or might
equal something complete, like,
right. So
art is more like algebra, right? So there's like a mixture of like numbers, letters, figures, like, and you may never find an answer. It's very frustrating in a way, but also it's this weird thing that I have to do. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like when I don't understand when people are like, oh, it's, it's how, for me, art has always been this cool thing where, yes, I get to relieve my brain of like tension, but it also is this oddly at the same time frustrating thing, because I'm trying to get this certain idea that I have to manifest in a physical world outside of my brain. So it's like a puzzle, right? It's a puzzle that I created and I intentionally left out a couple pieces. And I'm like, mad. It's very odd, but
I get you 100%.
Yes. I'm the same way with fonts. Like, I remember editing videos, people, and if the font isn't right, it drives me up the wall. Like, I'm also incredibly like, this font isn't, we've got to like, it's got to be one size smaller, and it needs to be in bold and in like, I don't know, New Times Roman and not impact bold. So it's very odd.
You're speaking Melina's language.
Am I really? Okay, yes, because fonts are everything.
Yeah, and when they're not right or they look weird.
No, yes, and oh, yes. You understand. You understand.
100%.
Coloration's important too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, and saturation, and it's incredibly frustrating, but at the same time so important that that it's exactly how I see it.
And it's so satisfying when it's pleasing to the eye.
Yes. And like yes. The aesthetics are number one for me. If it's aesthetically not right, bye. like,
Literally.
yeah. We're having like a moment here. I love it.
Also, Hannah witnesses this like every day firsthand of me getting frustrated.
Yes.
Like I rebranded my entire Instagram because I wanted to post a picture that did not fit the aesthetic of the pictures before. So I removed the posts just to post one picture.
By the way, I deleted so many of my Instagram posts before the movie came out because it was mainly just me walking around with a camera and just going, and it was like a picture of like a stop sign, or like, and I was like, but for some reason it was aesthetically pleasing to me, and I had like a row of like pictures that were just of like a beach, because I was in Florida at the time, so it was this nice like sky blue beach house paired with like a nice teal, like a beige wall, and just the coloration pattern for me was pleasing, but not, I understand that people just look at it and go, why do you take a picture of a stall or like the side of a house? I'm like, I don't know. So so before this, my Instagram was littered with like oddity pictures. But yeah, I should repost some of them.
I would love to see your stop sign.
I was gonna say,
Yes,
don't go viral. Don't go viral now.
This next post, I'll just repost the stuff of the stop sign, you know. I had a friend send me after the movie came out and stuff, and she sent me a picture of the stop sign. She goes, only the OGs will understand. I was like, very true. Very true.
Okay, going back to the questions after our little rant.
Yes.
Through the process of releasing your first single, what is one thing that you learned about yourself?
Great question, by the way. Good question. I think it goes back to what we were saying, just how much of a perfectionist I am. And I think also how shy I am when it comes to things I make. Because I was pretty hesitant about putting the single out. I was very hesitant. So I realized I kind of had like an insecurity, shyness about my music and about my art a little bit. And I'm like, interesting. So I had to think about that. But yeah.
But going from you being shy and a perfectionist, are you planning on releasing more original songs?
Yes.
Do you
definitely
have some already like in the process of being perfect?
Yes. I will be releasing and music will be, I will be releasing more stuff. That's all I'm going to say about that right now, because I don't necessarily have like a time or a date, especially with the film kind of popping off, coming out and stuff. It's kind of like I said, I didn't expect to be on a podcast with you guys. So like, which by the way, this has been a great time, I got to say. But there's some things I didn't expect to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I can speak for Hannah and me. We're going to be very excited for your music and we're going to hype you up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do.
Okay, moving from your music and music in general, a little bit about your future. What have you learned in 2020, like about yourself and have you set any goals for this year?
Yeah. Definitely one of my goals is so I'm going to answer the first one, which was things I learned in 2020, correct? So yeah, things I learned about myself in 2020. I didn't realize how much, because I love people and I really like meeting people and understanding people. I didn't realize the quarantine hit. I didn't realize how much of an introvert I was. So like once quarantine hit and everyone was like, I can't wait to go outside. And I was like, I'm fine. I was like, I'm kicking in my room. It's cool. Learning new things. And so 2020 was kind of like an eye-opening year. Like, I really like my alone time a lot. And so I learned that about myself. And then goals I've been setting. I definitely, of course, releasing music, releasing a full kind of project is definitely a goal for this next coming year or 2 years. Also, I want to be a creative director on something, to be honest. But that has kind of been a new thing that has been presented through 2020, because I love acting and I love singing and I love doing that. But I have always been, I want my hands inside the brain of the operation. It's like excuse my another analogy. It's like Ratatouille when he's inside the hat and he's like pulling on the hair. Okay, I want to be that. I want to be the rat in the hat pulling on the brain of the project. So I would love to be a creative director down the road on something, for sure.
Okay, and now we're just gonna ask you some fun questions.
Sure.
If you could switch bodies with someone for an entire day, who would you switch with and why?
Switch bodies with someone for an entire day. There's like so many layers to that, because like, would I want like to be strong? Would I want to be flexible? Like what? Switching bodies. Do you mean switching bodies like bodies? Do you mean
like Freaky
like
Friday
life?
thing? Like a Freaky
Okay.
Friday.
I was thinking. Okay, cool. I would love. This is Kanye West. For real. Like, but I would date the year that I'd want to switch bodies with Kanye. Is that
Yeah.
allowed in the rules?
Yes.
I would do circa 2017. Circa 2015. I think that's when My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy or Yeezus came out. I'm gonna get my dates wrong. Oh well. But when he's like in his prime, like starting Yeezus, like starting the Yeezy brand, just the ideas being in those rooms, making the shots, calling the shots, doing the designs. Yes, that's who I would switch bodies with. Definitely.
That's like another question. We have a playlist where we put two favorite songs of our guests on it, so our listeners can listen to it. What are your two favorite songs that we should definitely add?
Oh no, you should have asked me this before, because I've got like a million running through my head right now, but I'm gonna choose two because I think, it's definitely gonna be a Frank Ocean song, number one. And the one I would probably choose, oh no, Pink and White, okay. Frank Ocean. Number two, I'm deciding if I want to go with Stevie Wonder or we're going to go with Stevie Wonder. We're going to do Contusion.
Okay.
Now this one's kind of an odd one because it's got really no singing in it and it's just straight instrumental.
But people will vibe.
For me,
people will vibe.
Yeah, this song kind of changed. But then I'm like, oh, there's so many good Pharrell songs. But those are the two I'm going to leave you guys with.
Okay.
Contusion, Stevie Wonder, Pink and White, Frank Ocean.
Okay. Mel's just making sure she doesn't forget.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
Do you have any questions?
No, I think we're good. Ian, like, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. We had a blast talking
I
with
had so
you.
much. This was fun.
I'm so glad. Awesome. So this is just another episode of the Girls Stuff podcast.
And that's girl stuff.